Hello and welcome to the show. This week's FailRace versus the community, we would go racing with some Mazda Mx-5s. Our first race with the originals at the Brands Hatch Indy Circuit, as the lead two cars are already side by side through the opening corner, and there is plenty of 2 and 3 wide action further back as we run up into the second corner. Black and red car not quite able to go around the outside. There's some sideways stuff from a car further back. Towards turn 3, it is the second place vehicle again looking for a way past up the inside, but Brands Hatch Indy isn't the easiest of tracks to overtake on. The braking zones are relatively small at the best of times, let alone when you're in a car that isn't amazingly fast. In a straight line, you're already going to be braking pretty damn late with these MX-5s, so yeah, getting passes done wasn't the easiest of things, especially when there are so many cars all immediately around you. This was the fight for 4th place, and this was at the end of the opening lap. You can already see how far away the top 3 have got. That was 3rd place, just because we were far too busy fighting 3 and 4 wide for positions. It's not so good for lap time, but it is a huge amount of fun as we run in towards the first corner here. I thought I was going to get stuck on the outside of a 3 wide. The red car thinks better of it, tries to go for a cutback, but he can't quite. There's a little bit of trading of paint going on. He can't quite get it to the inside. I'm having to try and be the brave one, going the long way around turn 2. You can make it work if you get a good run out of the corner. I do, but there's not a huge amount of space for me to go. There's a blue car up ahead of me, although said blue car is gets a little bit of a wonky line through turn 3. It's slow through the corner. Kind of concertina affects all of us up into one another. I do come off of all of that relatively well, managing to move up a position, and the blue car would get a little bit of oversteer at a wheel on the grass, and it's never a good thing to have, although I was following him very closely and used his sort of braking point. That ended up me being out wide for the final corner. The red and white car would then get a cutback to the inside out of the final turn as we run across the start-finish line. Now, one thing to watch out with these cars was the lift-off oversteer. Caught out a lot of people, as we see here, a prime example into the first corner. The red car just gets that little bit of sliding, and that's all the opportunity I need to go for a cutback. Purple car is coming to join in the fun as well, up towards the second corner. Tries to make that manoeuvre stick, but can't quite get it fully done. It was frantic racing. What you would imagine from these kind of cars, let's face it. This was the fight for 16th, 17th, 18th and 19th place. Right down the back of the field, and they're still going 3 and 4 wide over positions. This is the joy of racing these kind of cars. I love racing the less crazy, the slower cars, because you get racing that is just this close, and it's more fun. You're not going to be setting lap records around here, no, but it's so much more fun when you're in a 4-car battle for position. It doesn't matter what position that might be. As we're again going up towards turn 2, there's cars trying to go around the outside, cars trying to go for out-braking maneuvers, and everybody is just about managing to get away with it. Although the curves were a little bit nasty with the MX-5. The green car touches a curb on the outside, gets tipped sideways into the black car on the inside, who then goes very, very sideways on his own. Amazingly, in all of this, again, you wouldn't get away with it in much faster cars, but because you're doing not a huge amount of speed, you can recover it. The black car lost about a car length in all of that. Yeah, it was great. It was incredibly exciting racing. There was, as the race went on, a little bit more of gaps did appear around the circuit. This blue car was trying to make his way back up through the order, would get a pass done into the final corner. Honestly, the kind of final corner and the run down the start-finish straight was perhaps the most important, and certainly where we saw the most overtakes. If you could get a good run out of the final corner, then getting up the inside into turn 1 was your most likely overtaking spot, or diving up the inside into the final corner if you got it right. The blue car almost gets himself in trouble, having just made up the position, runs a bit too wide into the opening corner, almost giving the vehicle behind an opportunity to get past. At the front, in the top 3, had been fighting away for position, and they had suitably slowed themselves down enough to, well, bring it into, well, now really a top 6 with the 7th car quick to join in. The leader run wide through the opening corner, and when you're in a single make race, you can't give an opportunity like that one away. It is a simple dive up the inside into turn 2 that would put the black and red car up into the lead, but you can see the size of the group that was forming behind. It was perhaps one of the biggest battles we have seen, sort of multi-car battles for the lead in quite some time, and it was certainly a frantic battle. I was very much in the mix here, as there's just so many cars trying to fit into a small piece of tarmac as we run into the final corner. Unfortunately, it was always likely to end in a little bit of trouble as we all fight for the same piece of tarmac. Two of the cars up ahead just get their cars ever so slightly connected. Sort of one car stuck on the rear bumper, neither can really turn away. That ends up in them getting turned across the track, and I have kind of nowhere to go, getting a little bit caught up on the inside. Again, though, you do that with a much faster car, you do those with touring cars and so on, and somebody smacks the ball very hard and it's race over. But in MX-5s, I lost a few positions in all of it. However, car's perfectly undamaged, and you can go and carry on the race. Yeah, group a little bit more spread out now, but there we go. Yeah, it had been an incredibly frantic race here at Brands Hatch. An awful lot of fun, though. At the front, it would be the black and red car that would go on to take victory. The Powerpuff Girls car was catching towards the end. A strange thing I never thought I'd say. However, it was towards the end of this race, but ran out of laps to do anything about it. Yeah, it could have been an even more frantic finale had there not been a little bit of a tangle on the penultimate lap. It was kind of building after many laps of driving around as a group, and we would, on the very final corner, we would continue to be squabbling for position. The white and blue car that had made up a few positions in our kerfuffle tried to gain another one, got it wrong at the final turn, and that then meant, well, we all steam trained up the inside to get past. What I was saying earlier, you make a mistake in cars like these when everyone is driving exactly identical machinery, and you are likely to pay when everybody's close together. And then there's a little bit of a laggy bump for my car to have a big sideways moment, having crossed the finish line. Up next, we move on to the Yas Marina South Circuit. A nighttime race. Haven't done one of these for ages on it. Yas is the only one I'll use for versus community because, well, you can actually kind of see what's going on in the replays. Yeah, it's been quite a while since we've done a night race. I thought we would go here using a bit more of a modern MX-5, gone for the Cup car as we all barrel our way into the first corner. Always a little bit scary, everybody trying to filter their way through these opening corners at Yas. Again, especially when everyone's wanting to be 2 and 3 and 4 wide in various places. Thankfully, there is offered enough runoff area to just about get away with things, and it is a very, very big bunch of angry cars heading down towards this fast double apexed corner. Very difficult to see in the middle of all of this traffic when you've just got a sea of roll cages and Mazdas ahead of you. It is quite difficult to see where you are aiming for. I'm busy trying to go around the outside and inside, and wherever you can get your car that might stand you a chance of getting an overtake done is what you're currently doing at this moment in time. Found myself up into second place as the cars behind busy still fighting for position as we dive into the final corner. Once more, much like Brands Hatch, plenty of action early on in this race. Yas, a little bit easier circuit to overtake on. Car we're following here had a big dive up the inside into the final corner, although couldn't quite make that move stick. The final turn is a difficult one probably the most difficult corner on the track to overtake in some respects. It's very easy to kind of dive up the inside and then get very, very slow run out of it because then we have a long straight. However, the gold car able to outbrake his opponent into turn 1 as they bounce across the curbs through that section and would regain his position. Yeah, certainly much easier to overtake around here than it was at Brands Hatch. There was the battle of supremacy among the purple cars in the midfield. A little bit more spread out this race than we saw at Brands Hatch. Again, coming in towards this final corner. It's a big dive up the inside for the car we're riding on board with. But again, you end up taking such a tight line through that corner. If you dive really late on the brakes, you end up running out wide and your opponent will just simply do a cutback on you, or you end up taking such a tight line it's very difficult to get your car off of the corner fast enough to make a move stick. It's all, when you're driving these relatively slow cars in comparison to some of the vehicles you have on Forza, it's all about sort of keeping your momentum up, and yeah, taking slightly wonky lines trying to get past is isn't always helpful. at the front, and things were starting to get busy once more. It was quickly becoming a three-way battle for the lead. The yellow and white car had been fighting like this for much of the race so far. I'd made a little mistake, dropped back, but quickly caught when you're fighting this ferociously for position, you're going to be going quite slow. As they go too wide around yet another corner, I unfortunately met a curb, had a massive twitch in the orange mobile, and would end up falling back down to 4th place, as, yeah, these two, I'm pretty sure they swapped positions at least twice every single lap around this track. It was absolutely incredible. There's another car having a big look up the inside into the final corner, and when you're fighting for position like this, it's incredibly hard to try and build up a lead over anybody. Much as the lead two were busy fighting, I was busy fighting for 3rd place. 5th and 6th were also in their own little duel around this circuit. The turquoise car was holding on to 5th place at this moment in time, but gets things just a little bit wrong coming out from underneath the hotel. A little bit slow through the corner. Much as I said, all about keeping that momentum up. You get a slightly wonky line, take too tighter a line, and you can't quite get the speed out of the corner, and it's going to cost you. If the car behind has got that better run, you've got exactly the same machinery, you've got exactly the same amount of horsepower, so little tiny mistakes are quite noticeable in vehicles like these, and while there was only a couple of cars around, you can lose a significant number of places from relatively minor mistakes. As I said, I think the field spread out a little bit more in this because there are a lot of sort of duels going on, and the duel would cost you so much time. The car, like if there was a single car ahead of you, that would vanish off down the road. So yeah, you can kind of see it's a little bit more spread out around this circuit. But when you were in one of the many duels going on, it's absolutely fantastic fun as this purple car tries to make a move on the sort of grey and orange vehicle. It's around the outside of the final turn that he would get the pass finally completed. In fact, the grey and orange car sort of dove too much to the inside, was very slow off the corner, would lose another position as well. With the leaders busy swapping positions absolutely every lap, me in 3rd place would then quickly join in that fun. We would gradually fall back from the leaders as we continued to fight, probably a little bit too viciously. We would have been better off forgetting our own battle and sort of concentrating on chasing down the lead. Ignore the ghost cars, I don't know what they're doing. They're being weird on the replays again. But yeah, we were so busy fighting over 3rd place that we allowed the front two to get that little bit out of reach. I managed to outbrake myself into the sort of first few corners that would cost me a bit of time. It would drop me back into 4th, but I would be quick through the double apex. I'd have a little bit of a think just too far back, although the car ahead is pushing it as hard as he can. He runs wide behind us. There's another duel going on with I think both ending up out a bit wide on the curb. In the end, it is pushing it too hard, leaving the hotel section that would put the grey car out wide. That gives me an opportunity. And again, like I said earlier on, when you see this opportunity, you've got to go and take it. You've got to do everything you can. Up ahead, the white car still trying and does successfully fight his way to the inside of the yellow car there. I get myself across to cover that inside to try and fend off the grey car into turn 1. And this is what the final sort of 2 or 3 laps would be like for all of us at the front. It was absolute mayhem going on. I say mayhem. It was sort of controlled mayhem because it was just a 1v1 fight, and we were all in midst of battles, and we're all kind of a little bit on our own, sort of in our own private races almost. It was onto the final lap with these two still going at it, as the yellow car would end up in 2nd place through absolutely everything he could have at the white car into this final corner. We get a very close-up look at the back of an MX-5 Cup car, but yeah, the yellow vehicle not quite able to make a pass on that final lap. Honestly, the race could have ended on whatever lap, but it probably would have had a different victor, and it was crazy. Everyone was swapping places so much in the top 6 in this race that yeah, the top lot, very, very exciting. Further back, not quite so much, but still not bad going. Have final race, and we would head to an unusual circuit. As much as I love Bathurst, tend not to run it too much in versus the community, but I thought I would give it a go with the latest generation of MX-5s. Figured they were, you know, again, it's a relatively low class of car. It should be a relatively easy thing to handle around this rather demanding racetrack. At the front, and it was single file, relatively early on, relatively neatly out of the first corner. I was the last of the single file, though. Behind me, it was all getting a little bit scary. It's a lot of cars going at 130 miles an hour up towards what is a pretty damn fast corner over here. They do, though, manage to all sort themselves out. A few vehicles ending up out wide. The turquoise car up ahead gets himself just a little bit slow off the corner. I don't know if he missed a gear or something. Me and a white and blue car sweep either side of him with a much better run out of the corner. A black car fires himself up the inside as well to get some positions. Only see him coming at the very last minute, have to change direction ever so slightly. That gets me stuck out almost against the wall. A surprisingly clean start to a race here at Bathurst as we now run over the top of the hill. This place you can't afford to make a mistake, in a very, very difficult place to get an overtake done. It's very narrow and incredibly fast. The car behind me ends up out wide, very sideways and in the wall. The turquoise vehicle making the most of that opportunity. Yeah, it's not a fun place to try and get an overtake done through there. Neither is it going down the other side in between the walls. However, one of my fears with Bathurst, and one of the reasons why I tend not to use it a huge amount, is the fields tend to spread out very, very quickly, and indeed that was the case here. This was coming on to the start of the second lap, and I was about the only one in a battle at this stage of the race. You can look down the road and you can see the gaps that are already forming. This is all in identical cars, and this is just from the early sort of couple of scraps as you go around the hill. You know, you'll end up being a little bit slower fighting cars side by side, and a car that isn't having to fight a car side by side can make up such huge times around Bathurst that, yeah, it's just... I don't know, I love the circuit. It is an absolutely fantastic circuit, but even with cars like these that had proved to be fantastically close racing at Brands, at Yas Marina, it just wasn't quite working. Admittedly, might not have been helped. Perhaps he could have done with a little bit more powerful a car around a circuit like this as we continued to swap places. I think the black car got a little bit slow through that uphill corner. It would allow me to dive back up the inside and make up one of my lost positions at that point. But yeah, there was just a little bit too much spacing out going on very, very quickly in this race, which meant that there wasn't quite the same amount of crazy and close overtaking action and so on that we'd seen at other circuits. This being the fight for second place, it had closed up a little bit. Again, Bathurst, it can be a tougher track to overtake on. There are a couple of very good places to go for an overtake, but if you can't get a pass done through this corner, which the white and blue car can't quite, almost held it all the way around the outside, you now come to a very, very fast, very, very narrow section of the track, and when you're in such evenly matched cars, you've got to have an awful lot of overspeed, essentially, to be able to make a pass work when you're running this close to the walls, and you're pretty much flat out through this whole section, unless something goes wrong and you get a big bit of oversteer. So, yeah, overtaking was proving to be a little bit more difficult, and just in general, the field a lot further spread out. Now, I did say it is difficult to overtake in between these walls, not completely impossible, though, as we see demonstrated here, coming up towards some of the fastest, some of the scariest corners on the track. The blue car leading this group gets just a tad wide, brushes the wall and is slow off the corner. Black and red car can just about get his car changed direction in time and will dive to the inside of the next turn. The blue vehicle will give him plenty of space as they run through that fast corner. It is possible to get overtakes done through there. It is a hell of a scary corner to make something stick. The blue car tried to keep up as they ran down the hill, but a bit too much oversteer. Again, these cars did have a fair amount of lift-off oversteer. As you're coming down the hill, it was quite easy to get them very, very sideways. This was perhaps the closest group battle that would go on. The black cars sensing an opportunity as they come down towards the first corner. Fairly straightforward. They're never straightforward outbraking manoeuvre into the first corner. A lovely clean outbraking manoeuvre into turn one to get the position. Perhaps one of the easier corners here to make passes. Probably one of the most common overtaking spots we saw in this event as well. At the front, it would be the white and red car that will go on to take victory by a fairly comfortable margin and just about see second and third in the background. started towards the front of the field, got a good launch, and I think might have started on pole, or certainly on the front row, and could just drive away from the rest of us while we were busy scrapping in the opening sort of lap, build up a huge advantage, and very, very difficult to catch up. This was the fight going on for second place. It certainly intensified by the final lap as we came into the last corner. White and blue car had a big dive up the inside to try and make a pass stick, but it couldn't quite do it. The cutback would work for the black and orange vehicle. He would come in second, white and blue car in third. I had a fairly awful race. I was not very good under brakes in the corner after the chase. I may have visited the grass a couple of times. I think I ended up somewhere down about 7th. Yeah, Bathurst just hadn't quite been as exciting as the other races, but sometimes the way that it goes. Yeah, Brands Hatch Indy was utter mayhem, an awful lot of fun. A 7-car battle for the lead is always an interesting thing to have going on. And Yas had also been plenty of fun. More fun for the cars at the front. Midfield to get a little bit more spread out. But yeah, the MX-5s, as you would expect, really a lot of fun to go doing one-make races with a quite oversteery with the lift-off oversteer, but once you got the hang of them, it really wasn't too bad. It wasn't as bad to manage as I think some people were expecting it to be. However, that is going to be it for this week's Versus the Community. Next week, we are going to be on Forza Horizon 3. It is going to be held on Thursday, the 16th of February. We are going to be doing some A-Class cross-country races with heavyweight cars, vehicles weighing over 4,000 pounds. If you would like to sign up and take part in that event, then you can via our forums. There will be a link in the description. Find the FailRace versus the community section, and you can sign up in there. However, that's going to be it from me. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.